afternoon to members of the media and the listening public. Bermuda's economy continues to expand and show resilience. During the first quarter of 2023, the Bermudan economy grew by an estimated 3.6% year-over-year after adjusting for inflation. The level of economic expansion was a direct result of increased household expenditure and growth in the exports of goods and services. GDP in current prices increased by 6% during the first quarter. Consumer spending in the first quarter increased 1.1% year-over-year to $760.7 million. Consumption of services increased 1.1% year-over-year, reflected in higher expenditure for air transport, vehicle maintenance and repair services, and personal care services. Spending on durable goods rose by 5.7%, due largely to increased expenditure on furniture and furnishings and new and used motor vehicles and motorcycles. Employment income in the first quarter was 7.9% above 2022 levels. Employment income in the following industries all increased in the first quarter of 2023. International business, hotel and restaurants, banking, insurance and real estate, business services, wholesale and retail, construction, transportation, and communication. The first quarter growth in employee remuneration in these sectors are positive, and the levels are also outpacing pre-pandemic employment income levels. The island hosted 24,667 air visitors during the first quarter of 2023, up from the 12,280 in the first quarter of 2022. Estimated expenditure by air visitors increased to $43.4 million from $22.6 million recorded in the first quarter of 2022. Consumption by the government declined 3.2% during the quarter, with lower expenditure on salaries, professional services, and equipment. Furthermore, gross capital formation declined 4.3% to $197.2 million. Investment related to construction fell 6.3%. Investment in machinery and equipment also decreased by 2.1% due to lower imports of water filtration, refrigerating, and freezing equipment and industrial machinery parts. Bermuda's trade balance rose by 11.3% to $703 million as a result of receipts for the export of goods and services growing while payments for imports of goods and services declined. Exports of goods and services increased by 6.1% during the quarter, due in part to exports of fuel to visiting airlines and higher receipts related to travel services. Total business registration increased year-over-year, bringing the complete business register to 16,101. There were 233 new businesses registered in Bermuda during the first quarter of 2023. The government continues to facilitate the expansion and sustainability of Bermuda's economy by creating a business environment which allows businesses to thrive. The government will continue to execute on the strategic initiatives outlined in Bermuda's economic development strategy to ensure Bermuda's experiences sustainable economic growth and development. For more information, please review the first quarter 2023 quarterly GDP by expenditure publication on the Department of Statistics website at gov.bm. Thank you.
We'll take some questions from the media now. What was that? In terms of economic growth, it'd be interesting to hear any progress on gaming. This was one of government's four main pillars to kickstart the economy. and 18 months after the launch of the economic recovery plan, we still have no casinos, and furthermore, we have no betting shops. So where are we with this, and do you still see it as a key driver?
That's certainly a struggling sector within our economy, gaming. But what I would say is we've seen and we are experiencing robust growth outside of that industrial sector. Notwithstanding, it was a key area in terms of the opportunity it creates to create jobs and greater levels of economic activity. If that industry was to take off, we still see that our economy is expanding without the need to increase that sector.
So would you consider it still to be key going forward?
It was highlighted as a key feature in the economic recovery strategy. The economic recovery strategy has now been replaced with the economic development strategy, and it was not a strategic priority in the economic development strategy. Notwithstanding, it is still a key area in terms of the economy to expand.
And similarly with the fish processing plant, would you see that as a key pillar going forward still?
It was a key feature of the strategy, but it is not a key pillar of our economy. And so I want to make that abundantly clear, that some of these initiatives will provide greater levels of economic activity if they get off the ground. However, as we talk about the entire economy, we clearly outlined which, in the economic development strategy, which industrial sections are growth drivers, which industrial sections actually drive employment, and which industrial sections actually present the greatest level of opportunity to the government.
There's been a little bit of focus on the need for transit visa to move from 115 countries. What with the new airline looking to connect the reader to the Caribbean, some might say that the transit visa could be seen as a barrier to economic growth. Would you agree with that, or see any truth in that?
As it pertains to that, the ministry intends to do a full press statement on that particular matter, and I'll ask you to park that question for that particular press statement after we give a robust and thorough outline of how we're moving in that particular direction.
Can I just ask you about the timing of the order that was issued? Was it last week, Friday?
Oh, that will be clarified in the press conference tomorrow.
Vivian?
Good afternoon, Minister. I just want to follow on my media colleagues' questions about the fish processing plant. Simply, you've kind of seemed to shift away from it as a little bit as a real priority goal anymore, saying, does the economic strategy now override the economic recovery plan in some way? Because I thought following the economic recovery plan was part of your economic strategy.
So the economic development strategy is the robust plan that's going to drive sustainable growth and development for the years to come. There are strategic priorities in these plans and then strategic initiatives. Execution of the economic recovery plan is still a key priority. Within that economic recovery plan, there are 31 initiatives. Some of those initiatives were highlighted to produce a greater level of economic results if we were able to execute on those particular items. None of that takes away the value that that project will bring if executed. And so I don't want you to leave her to think that that is no longer, if executed, that will no longer bring economic activity. What I'm saying is we have a more robust economic strategy that we're focused on at this point in time, and that is only one project within an overall plan.
Okay, and just because the government website still has on it that it was expected a business plan will be completed in March. Economic Development Corporation is awaiting final report of the business plan anticipated in March. Is that incorrect?
The business plan has been completed.
It's been completed.
Correct.
And it came before you, that's what
Correct.
Erica Smith said. So are there any updates you can give us on that? Did it step any further along, or?
Yes,
is it
certainly.
now?
So what we have within the cabinet is a economic development committee. That economic development committee will have a discussion on the business plan and then discuss what are the next steps as it pertains to that.
Any update on vertical farming? Because Calera was now bought out by a Dutch firm, and they have been in conversations with BEDC. What is the result of those conversations?
The dialogue between the vendor and BEDC continue. What we would say is that once we began to have media coverage on supporting vertical farming, we did get outreach by both locals and overseas individuals who wanted to partner with Bermuda to increase our use of technology to move forward with greater levels of local agricultural production. That will be a key feature in the integrated agriculture strategy that the Ministry of Home Affairs is working on, and that is also featured within the economic development strategy.
On a couple of things that you said today about, employment income was up 7.9% in Q1 this year. You listed where it had gone up, IB, hotels and restaurants, banking, but are you able to give us a breakdown of that, of how much it went up in the different sectors?
Certainly. In international business, employment income rose by 9.9%. Hotels and restaurants, it increased by 22.8%. Banking, insurance, and real estate increased by 6.7%. Business services increased by 9%. Wholesale and retail increased by 10.9%. Construction increased by 9.1%. Transport and communications increased by 9.7%. And all other categories increased by 3.5%, for a total increase of 7.9%.
What I want to ask is, you spoke about the economic development strategy being a robust plan, but Jarian Richardson, the new OBA leader, has criticised the way government produces economic plans and strategies because they don't include timelines, dates by which certain initiatives will be completed. How do you respond to this criticism?
In the report, it was clear that we was to institute Economic Development Advisory Board. That Economic Development Advisory Board has been working. That board is responsible for the key performance indicators pertaining to each of the initiatives which are featured in the economic development strategy. And what I have promised moving forward is to give full, robust updates on the progress we're making on the initiatives and the priorities we will set as it pertains to which initiatives we will move forward on executing in each fiscal period.
In each fiscal, so we
Correct.
will get targets.
Most definitely.
We will get targets, because what would you say to people who may think the government is being purposely vague?
I wouldn't accept that we're being purposefully vague. The targets is sustainable economic growth and development. And how do you measure economic growth? You measure economic growth by quarterly economic performance and annual economic performance. How do you measure economic development? Well, you measure economic development by expansion of businesses, expansion of economic activity, and expansion of jobs, increased skill sets within the population. And so all of the work that we're doing and the indicators that we put out will show whether or not the plans that we have put in place are actually bearing fruit.
Our final question, turning over to cost of living. Customs duty on basic food items was dropped to zero almost a year ago, but food prices continue to go up on a regular basis. Are there other ways that you can help reduce the cost of food for residents?
The government will look at whether or not it has to expand that list of products that we currently have those tax deferrals on to control the cost of food. But yes, the government and the Cost of Living Commission will continually explore options as to how we reduce the cost of living in Bermuda. Notwithstanding that, we do see inflation abating a little bit, and inflation in April was down 3.8%. It's not enough to say that we're beginning to trend in the right direction, but certainly we want to see that inflation rate get back to a comfortable level, which is under 2%.
Thank you.
In your presentation, you said investment related to construction had fallen by 6.3%, and investment in machinery and equipment also decreased by 2.1%, and that's because of lower water filtration, refrigeration and freezing equipment. Can you give an explanation why that's declined?
I think generally it's kind of self-explanatory. We have lower levels of construction activity at this particular time than we did in the first quarter of 2022. And so that is one of the areas in which we need to improve in terms of wrapping up the level of construction work that's taking place within our economy. And once you see the ramping up of construction work, then all the other related indicators, like machinery and equipment, you will see increases in those areas as well. In closing, I'll certainly say the government is working extremely hard to ensure that our economy remains on the right track. Our economy is expanding. The number of persons employed in our economy is expanding. Bermudian jobs is up. Unemployment is down. Youth unemployment is also down. Those are all positive signs, and we will continue to invest in the development and skills of our young people so that we can connect them with jobs. Thank you.